Emperor Zexthal was the most powerful being in the galaxy. His red scales shone like fire in the light of 1,000 suns. For 3,000 years he had ruled the Dragon Empire with an iron claw. Every planet, every moon, every space station belonged to him. Dragons were the strongest, the smartest, the best. Everyone else was just there to serve them. On this day, the Emperor flew to a mining colony called Kepler Station. The station floated in space near a big asteroid field. Thousands of workers dug precious metals from the rocks. Most of them were humans, aliens, and other weak species. They did the hard work while dragons watched and gave orders. The Emperor's huge ship landed at the station with a loud roar. Workers stopped what they were doing and bowed low. They were scared. When the Dragon Emperor visited, bad things could happen to anyone who made him angry. Lisa Martinez worked at the station's restaurant. She was 24 years old with brown hair and green eyes. Every day she served food to workers and visitors. The pay was not much, but she needed the money. Her family on Earth was poor, and her little brother Danny needed special medicine for his sick legs. Lisa had been working at the restaurant for 2 years. She was kind to everyone, even when they were rude to her. The other workers liked her because she always helped when someone was in trouble. She never complained, even when the days were long and hard. The Emperor walked through the station with his guards. Other dragons followed him, their scales gleaming gold and silver. Important aliens from different planets came too. They all wanted to show the Emperor how well the mining work was going. Near the restaurant, something was wrong. A small dragon lay on the ground, breathing hard. This was Prince Kethmore, the Emperor's youngest son. He was only 50 years old, which was very young for a dragon. But something was different about him. His wings were twisted and small. His back legs were weak and shaky. Prince Kethmore had tried to walk to the big windows to see the spaceships. But his legs gave out and he fell down. Now he lay there, scared and hurt. His golden scales were dirty from the floor. The other beings walked past the fallen prince. Some dragons looked at him with shame in their eyes. In dragon culture, being weak or different was very bad. A dragon prince who could not fly properly was an embarrassment. Even the alien visitors pretended not to see him, but Lisa saw everything. She was carrying a tray of food when she noticed the small dragon on the ground. Without thinking, she put down her tray and rushed over to help. "Hey there," she said softly, kneeling beside Prince Kethmore. "Are you okay?" The young dragon looked up at her with big scared eyes. No one had ever talked to him like that before. Most beings either ignored him or spoke to him with pity in their voices. "I wanted to see the ships," Prince Kethmore whispered, "but my legs stopped working." Lisa smiled at him. "That's okay. Sometimes our bodies don't do what we want them to do. My little brother Danny has the same problem." She looked at the prince's twisted wings and weak legs. Then she did something that shocked everyone watching. She carefully lifted the young dragon in her arms. He was about the size of a large dog, but his scales made him heavy. Lisa did not care. She carried him like he was the most important thing in the world. "Let's get you somewhere comfortable," she said. Walking toward a quiet corner of the restaurant, Emperor Zexthal had been talking to the station commander when he heard a commotion. He turned to see what was happening and froze. A human female was carrying his son. Not dragging him, not pushing him in a chair, but carrying him gently in her arms. The Emperor started to get angry. How dare this lowly human touch a dragon prince without permission? But then he saw something that made him stop. His son was not struggling or crying. Instead, Prince Kethmore looked calm and safe in the human's arms. Lisa set the prince down carefully in a soft chair. She brought him a glass of water and a small cushion for his back. Then she sat down next to him and started talking. "My brother Danny loves spaceships too," she said. "He builds models of them in his room. He knows the names of every ship class in the human fleet." Prince Kethmore's eyes grew wide. "Really? I love ships too. I study their engines and navigation systems." "That's amazing," Lisa said. "You must be very smart." For the first time in his life, someone was talking to Prince Kethmore about his interests instead of his disability. Lisa asked him questions about ship design and listened to his answers like they mattered. She did not look at his twisted wings or weak legs. She looked at his face and treated him like any other curious young person. Emperor Zexthal watched from across the room. His massive form towered over everyone else, but he felt small inside. For 50 years he had hidden his son away. He was ashamed of Kethmore's condition. In dragon society, the strong ruled and the weak served. A disabled dragon prince was a contradiction that made everyone uncomfortable. But this human female saw something different. She saw a smart, interesting young dragon who just needed someone to care about him. She did not see weakness. She saw a person worth knowing. Other dragons in the Emperor's group whispered among themselves. They could not believe what they were seeing. A human was treating the disabled prince like he was normal. It went against everything they believed about strength and power. The Emperor walked slowly toward the corner where Lisa sat with his son. With each step, his thoughts raced. Who was this human? Why was she not afraid? And why did his son look happier than he had in years? When the Emperor reached them, Lisa looked up and smiled. She did not bow or shake with fear like everyone else. She just smiled like she was meeting any other worried parent. Your Majesty, she said quietly, your son is very smart. He knows more about spaceship engines than most adults I've met. The Emperor stared at her. In 3,000 years of ruling, no one had ever spoken to him like this. She was not trying to impress him or gain favor. She was just sharing something nice about his child. That moment changed everything. The Dragon Emperor, ruler of half the galaxy, began to wonder if everything he believed about strength and weakness might be wrong. Emperor Zexthul stood before Lisa and his son. His huge shadow covered them both, but Lisa did not seem scared. She kept one hand on Prince Kethmor's shoulder like she was protecting him. You are not afraid of me, the Emperor said. His voice was deep and powerful, like thunder rolling across the sky. Lisa looked up at him calmly. Should I be afraid? You're just a father who cares about his son. The other dragons gasped. No one talked to the Emperor like that. But Zexthul found himself curious instead of angry. This small human was different from any being he had ever met. Tell me about your brother, the Emperor said, surprising everyone, including himself. Lisa's face lit up. Danny is amazing. He's 16 now and he loves to build things. When he was little, the doctor said he would never walk. But Danny proved them wrong. He uses special braces now and gets around just fine. She pulled out a small device and showed the Emperor a picture. In it, a young human male with leg braces was standing next to a model spaceship he had built. He was smiling proudly. Danny taught me that being different doesn't mean being less, Lisa continued. It just means finding new ways to do things. Prince Kethmor looked at the picture with wonder. He built that ship model? It looks just like a real one. He did, Lisa said. And you know what? He wants to be a ship engineer someday. He says his legs don't work like other people's, but his brain works just fine. The Emperor listened to every word. In dragon culture, physical perfection was everything. Dragons with any weakness were hidden away or sent to distant planets. He had done the same thing with Kethmor, keeping him away from public events and important meetings. But this human talked about her disabled brother with pride, not shame. She showed his picture like he was a hero instead of an embarrassment. In your society, the Emperor asked slowly, disabled individuals are not hidden away? Lisa looked surprised. Hidden? Why would we hide them? Danny contributes so much to our family and community. He tutors other kids in math and science. He volunteers at the animal shelter. Just because his legs work differently doesn't make him worth less. She turned to Prince Kethmor. You said you study ship engines. Have you ever thought about designing improvements to them? The young dragon's eyes sparkled. All the time. I have so many ideas, but no one ever asked me about them. That's their loss, Lisa said firmly. Smart minds are precious no matter what body they come in. For the next hour, Lisa sat with Prince Kethmor and listened to his ideas. He talked about new engine designs that would be more efficient. He explained navigation systems that could plot courses through dangerous asteroid fields. His knowledge was incredible. The Emperor watched his son come alive in a way he had never seen before. Kethmor's voice grew stronger and more confident as he shared his thoughts. Lisa asked good questions and seemed genuinely interested in the answers. Where did you learn all this? Lisa asked. I read everything I can find about spaceships, Kethmor said. Since I can't fly like other dragons, I spend my time studying instead. That's wonderful, Lisa said. You know, on Earth we have a saying, different abilities, same dreams. Everyone wants to contribute something meaningful to the world. The Emperor felt something crack inside his chest. For 50 years, he had seen his son's disability as a failure. But this human saw it as just another way of being. She saw past Kethmor's twisted wings to the brilliant mind underneath. Tell me more about these special braces your brother uses, the Emperor said. Lisa explained how humans had developed technology to help people with disabilities. There were devices to help people walk, see, hear, and communicate. There were ramps and elevators to make buildings accessible. There were computer programs that could read text aloud or translate spoken words into text. We learned that when we make things accessible for people with disabilities, it often helps everyone, Lisa said. Ramps help people in wheelchairs, but they also help people pushing strollers or carrying heavy boxes. The Emperor thought about his empire. Dragon buildings had high doorways and steep stairs because dragons could fly. But what about all the other species who worked for them? How many good ideas and talents had been wasted because the empire was not designed for different kinds of beings? As Lisa's shift was ending, she helped Prince Kethmore stand up. She had used her apron to make a simple support belt that helped him balance better. "This is just temporary," she said. "But it might help until you can get something better designed." Prince Kethmore took a few careful steps. The support made a big difference. For the first time in years, he could walk without falling. "Thank you," he whispered. Lisa smiled. "Remember what I said about different abilities? You have a gift for understanding complex systems. Don't let anyone tell you that's not valuable." As Lisa walked away to finish her work, the Emperor made a decision that would change everything. He called his personal guards over. "Bring that human to my ship," he commanded. "But treat her as an honored guest, not a prisoner." The guards looked confused, but they obeyed. Dragons always obeyed the Emperor. Later that evening, Lisa stood on the bridge of the Emperor's flagship. She had never been on such a massive ship before. The walls were made of polished crystal, and the view of space through the windows was breathtaking. "I want to learn more about these human methods for helping the disabled," the Emperor said. "Will you teach me?" Lisa looked at the most powerful being in the galaxy, a creature who could destroy planets with a thought. But all she saw was a father who wanted to help his son. "Of course," she said, "but I'll need to bring some friends. There are doctors and engineers on Earth who know much more than I do." The Emperor nodded. "Whatever you need." As the massive ship turned toward Earth, Prince Kethmore sat beside his father for the first time in years. The young dragon was excited about the possibility of getting help, but more importantly, he felt valued and heard. The Emperor looked at his son and realized that true strength was not about perfection. It was about lifting others up and helping them reach their potential. This human waitress had taught him more in one day than he had learned in 3,000 years of ruling. The Dragon Empire was about to change forever. 3 weeks later, Lisa stood in the Imperial Palace on the Dragon homeworld. The building was made of glowing crystal that reached high into the clouds. She had never seen anything so beautiful or terrifying in her life. With her came Dr. Kevin Martinez, a doctor who specialized in helping people with disabilities. There was also Pete Richardson, an engineer who designed special equipment to help disabled people do things others took for granted. The three humans walked through hallways filled with dragons. Some dragons were as big as houses, with scales that sparkled like jewels. Their eyes followed the small humans with curiosity and disgust. Many dragons whispered to each other about how embarrassing it was to have humans in the palace. But Emperor Zexthul had given orders. The humans were honored guests, and anyone who bothered them would face his anger. Even the proudest dragons knew better than to anger their emperor. The throne room was enormous. Hundreds of dragons filled the space, their wings folded and their heads held high. Ancient dragons who had conquered entire star systems looked down at the tiny humans with cold eyes. Emperor Zexthul sat on a throne made of black stone and silver. Prince Kethmore sat beside him in a smaller chair. The young dragon looked nervous but excited. For the first time, he was being included in an important palace meeting. "My fellow dragons," the Emperor's voice boomed through the hall. "I have learned something important. We have been wrong about strength and weakness." Many dragons shifted uncomfortably. Some growled low in their throats. The Emperor was speaking against everything they believed. "These humans will teach us new ways to help those who are different," the Emperor continued. "Starting with my son." Dr. Martinez stepped forward. He was a small man with kind eyes and gentle hands. He was not afraid of the huge dragons around him because he had spent his life helping people who others had given up on. "Prince Kethmore," he said, "may I examine your wings and legs?" The young dragon nodded. For the next hour, Dr. Martinez carefully checked his condition. He took measurements and asked questions about pain and movement. He was gentle and respectful, treating the prince like any other patient. "Your condition is genetic," Dr. Martinez explained to the Emperor. The bones in his wings didn't form properly, and the muscles in his legs are weaker than normal. But there are things we can do to help. Pete Richardson came forward with a large bag of equipment. He was a big man with strong hands and a creative mind. He had spent 20 years building devices to help disabled people live better lives. "We can't fix everything," Pete said honestly, "but we can give the prince tools to work around his limitations." He pulled out pieces of a special suit made of light metal and flexible joints. "This is an exoskeleton. It will support his legs and help him walk more easily. The back part can extend into mechanical wings that will let him fly." Prince Kethmore's eyes grew wide. "I could really fly?" "Not like other dragons," Pete admitted. "But yes, you could fly. The wings would be powered by small engines instead of muscle." Many dragons in the throne room hissed with disapproval. Mechanical wings were not real flying. It was cheating, unnatural, wrong. But the Emperor raised a claw for silence. "Show us," he commanded. Pete and Dr. Martinez worked together to fit the exoskeleton on Prince Kethmore. It took time to adjust all the pieces properly. The suit was silver and blue with smooth lines that followed the dragon's natural shape. When they were finished, Prince Kethmore stood up easily. The leg supports took the weight off his weak muscles. He took a few steps, then a few more. For the first time in his life, walking felt natural and comfortable. "Now for the wings," Pete said. He activated the mechanical wings. They unfolded from the back of the suit with a soft whirring sound. They looked different from dragon wings, but they were beautiful in their own way. "The controls respond to your muscle movements," Pete explained. "Think about flying the way you always have, and the wings will follow." Prince Kethmore concentrated. The mechanical wings began to move. Slowly, carefully, he lifted off the ground. He rose 5 feet, then 10, then 20. He was flying. The throne room fell completely silent. The young dragon circled the huge space, his face glowing with joy. He had dreamed of this moment his entire life, but the real change was happening below. Emperor Zexthal watched his son fly and felt tears on his cheeks. His beautiful, brilliant son was finally free. When Prince Kethmore landed, he was breathing hard but smiling wider than anyone had ever seen him smile. "How do you feel?" Lisa asked. "Like myself," the prince said. "For the first time I feel like myself." Dr. Martinez spoke to the assembled dragons. "This is what we mean by accommodation. We don't try to make disabled people normal. We give them tools to be their best selves." Over the next few days, the humans worked with palace staff to change how they treated Prince Kethmore. Instead of carrying him everywhere, they taught him to use mobility aids. Instead of speaking for him, they listened to what he had to say. Lisa worked with the prince's tutors. "Don't make things easier for him," she explained. "Make them accessible. Challenge his mind while supporting his body." The changes in Prince Kethmore were amazing. With proper support, his natural intelligence shone through. He began designing improvements to his own equipment. He solved engineering problems that had puzzled adult dragons for years. Most importantly, he began to believe in himself. The Emperor watched all of this with wonder. He started asking questions about human society. How did they treat disabled people? What kinds of jobs could they do? How did they make buildings and transportation accessible? "We learned that diversity makes us stronger," Lisa explained. "When we include everyone, we get ideas and perspectives we never would have thought of ourselves." The Emperor thought about his vast empire. How many talented beings had been overlooked because they were different? How many problems could have been solved if he had listened to different voices? Not all dragons accepted the changes. Many still believed that weakness should be hidden or eliminated, but they could not argue with the results. Prince Kethmore was happier, more confident and more productive than he had ever been. The Emperor made an announcement that shocked the galaxy. The Dragon Empire would begin implementing human-style accessibility and inclusion programs. Buildings would be modified for different species. Transportation would accommodate various physical needs. Most importantly, disabled beings would be valued for their contributions instead of hidden away. The announcement caused anger and confusion throughout the Empire. Some dragons called the Emperor weak or crazy. Others worried that the Empire was losing its strength. But on the homeworld in the Crystal Palace, Prince Kethmore flew through the halls with his mechanical wings spread wide. He was living proof that accommodation was not about making beings weak. It was about setting them free to be strong in their own way. The Dragon Empire was changing, and there was no going back. News of the Emperor's changes spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On distant planets and space stations, beings talked in whispers about the Dragon Emperor who had lost his mind. Some said humans had poisoned his thoughts. Others claimed he was no longer fit to rule. Admiral Vorketh was one of the oldest and strongest dragons in the Empire. His black scales were scarred from 100 battles, and his eyes burned with ancient fire. He commanded the Third Fleet, a massive group of warships that had conquered dozens of worlds. When Vorketh heard about the changes on the homeworld, he was furious. Dragons taking advice from humans? A disabled prince being treated like a real dragon? Mechanical wings instead of natural ones? It was all wrong, disgusting, weak. The Emperor has been corrupted, Vorketh told his officers. Humans have made him soft and foolish. The Empire will fall if we don't act. Many dragons agreed with him. They had built their power on being stronger and better than everyone else. If disabled beings were suddenly valuable, if humans had ideas worth listening to, then what made dragons special? Vorketh began gathering support from conservative dragons throughout the Empire. He sent secret messages to fleet commanders and planetary governors. The true Dragon Empire must be restored, he wrote. Strength must rule over weakness. Meanwhile, on the homeworld, Lisa and her team were working hard to prove that inclusion made the Empire stronger, not weaker. Dr. Martinez had established medical clinics that treated conditions previously ignored. Many dragons discovered they had family members who could be helped. Pete Richardson shared human engineering techniques with dragon shipbuilders. The new designs were more efficient and could accommodate crews of different species and abilities. Ships built with accessibility features turned out to be better for everyone. Prince Kethmore had become the most popular member of the royal family. His engineering ideas were brilliant, and his kind personality won over dragons who had once pitied him. He flew through the palace halls with confidence, his mechanical wings carrying him as surely as any natural ones. But the greatest changes were happening in dragon society itself. Young dragons who had been taught to hide their differences began to speak up. A dragon with poor eyesight revealed her incredible hearing abilities. Another dragon with weak flight muscles turned out to be a mathematical genius. Lisa worked with schools and training centers across the Empire. Every being has strengths, she taught the instructors. Your job is to find those strengths and help them grow. The results were amazing. Productivity increased on planets where inclusion programs were implemented. Scientific discoveries came from unexpected sources. Art and music flourished as different perspectives were valued. But Vorketh saw only weakness and corruption. 6 months after the Emperor's announcement, the Admiral decided to act. He gathered his loyal fleets and set course for the home world. We will restore the true Dragon Empire, he declared to his followers. Strength will rule again. The Admiral's fleet was massive. Hundreds of warships filled with angry dragons approached the home world. They expected to find a weakened planet ready to surrender. Instead, they found something unprecedented. The homeworld's defense fleet included ships of many designs, crewed by beings from dozens of species. Dragons flew alongside humans, aliens, and even some beings that had once been considered too weak for military service. The first battle began in the outer asteroid belt. Vorketh's traditional formations met the homeworld's mixed fleets in a clash that lit up space with weapons fire. But something was wrong with Vorketh's plans. The enemy ships moved in ways he didn't expect. Their tactics were unlike anything in dragon military tradition. Leading one squadron was Prince Kethmore himself. His mechanical wings had been upgraded for space combat, and his strategic mind had devised new fighting techniques. Instead of the direct attacks favored by dragons, he used complex maneuvers that confused and outflanked the traditional forces. How is a disabled princeling defeating our best pilots? Vorketh roared. His officers had no answer. They had been trained to fight like dragons, but the enemy was fighting like something new entirely. The battle raged for hours. Vorketh's superior numbers should have won easily, but the homeworld's forces seemed to anticipate every move. Ships that looked weaker than dragon warships proved to be surprisingly tough and maneuverable. Lisa watched the battle from the Imperial Command Center. She wasn't a military expert, but she understood what was happening. Diversity is their strength, she told the Emperor. Your people learned to work together in ways Vorketh's forces never could. The Emperor nodded. His new military combined the flying skills of dragons with the technical expertise of humans and the strategic thinking of various alien species. Each group contributed what they did best. Prince Kethmore's voice came over the communication system. "Father, I'm ready to execute the final maneuver." "Do it, my son," the Emperor replied. What happened next became legend throughout the galaxy. Prince Kethmore led a combined force of dragons, humans, and aliens in a coordinated attack that used principles from all their different military traditions. The maneuver was so complex and unexpected that Vorketh's forces couldn't respond effectively. Within an hour, the Admiral's flagship was surrounded and disabled. Vorketh himself was captured and brought before Emperor Zexthul. The old Admiral was dragged into the throne room in chains. He expected to be executed immediately. That was how things had always been done in the Dragon Empire, but Emperor Zexthul surprised him once again. "Vorketh," the Emperor said sadly, "you are my oldest friend. We fought together to build this empire. I don't want to kill you. I want you to understand." Lisa stepped forward. She looked tiny next to the massive, angry dragon, but she wasn't afraid. "Admiral," she said respectfully, "you're worried that change will make the empire weak. But look around you. Prince Kethmore just defeated your best pilots using his mind instead of his muscles. The homeworld's defense was stronger because it included everyone's talents." Vorketh snarled. "Tricks and weakness. Dragons should rule through strength alone. But what is strength?" Prince Kethmore asked, flying down to land near the chained admiral. "Is it only muscle and flame? Or is it also intelligence, creativity, and the courage to do what's right?" For the first time, Vorketh really looked at the young prince. He saw the mechanical wings, the support systems, the adaptive technology, but he also saw confidence, wisdom, and genuine strength of character. "You defeated me," Vorketh admitted quietly. "We defeated you," Prince Kethmore corrected. "Dragons, humans, and dozens of other species working together. That's the new strength of our empire." Over the following days, Vorketh was given a choice. He could be exiled to live alone on a distant planet, or he could stay and learn about the changes happening in the empire. Reluctantly, the old admiral chose to stay. What he saw over the next few weeks challenged everything he believed. The empire wasn't weaker because of inclusion. It was stronger, more creative, more resilient. The rebellion was over, but the real victory was just beginning. 5 years had passed since Lisa first carried Prince Kethmore in her arms. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have imagined. The Dragon Empire was now called the Galactic Cooperative. Emperor Zexthul still ruled, but he shared power with representatives from hundreds of different species. The old system of dragons commanding and everyone else obeying was gone forever. Lisa stood on the observation deck of the new capital station, watching ships come and go. She was no longer a waitress in a small restaurant. Now she held the title of Director of Inclusive Development, one of the most important positions in the cooperative. But she had never forgotten where she came from or why she was here. Every decision she made was guided by the same principle that had led her to help a frightened dragon child. Everyone deserved dignity and the chance to reach their potential. Prince Kethmore had grown into a remarkable leader. His mechanical wings had been upgraded many times, incorporating new technologies and designs. But more importantly, his mind had flourished. He was now the cooperative's chief engineer and military strategist. The young dragon had designed a new class of starships that were marvels of accessibility and efficiency. Every ship was built to accommodate beings with different physical abilities, different environmental needs, and different ways of thinking. "The Harmony-class ships are our finest achievement," Prince Kethmore told a group of young engineers from across the galaxy. "They prove that when you design for everyone, you create something better than anything designed for just one group." The ships were beautiful and practical. They had controls that could be operated by beings with or without hands. They had areas with different gravity levels for species that evolved in different environments. They had communication systems that worked with beings who spoke, sang, or communicated through color changes. But the real revolution was in how the cooperative thought about ability and disability. The old words had almost disappeared. Instead, people talked about different abilities and adaptive approaches. Lisa visited a school on New Terra, one of the cooperative's most successful colony worlds. In one classroom, a young human with autism was teaching alien children about mathematics using patterns and colors. In another room, a dragon with hearing problems was leading a discussion about music by having students feel vibrations through special instruments. "This is what we dreamed of," Dr. Martinez told Lisa as they watched the children learn from each other. "A society where everyone's gifts are recognized and valued." Pete Richardson had established engineering schools throughout the cooperative. His students came from dozens of species, and many had disabilities that would have excluded them from traditional dragon military academies. "The best innovations come from people who see problems differently," Pete explained to his students. "When you've had to adapt to challenges your whole life, you become an expert at finding creative solutions." One of his students was a young alien whose species had no legs but incredible fine motor control in their tentacles. She had designed new types of tools that were more precise than anything created before. Another student was a dragon with a learning disability who struggled with traditional education, but had an intuitive understanding of energy flows that led to breakthrough discoveries in engine design. The transformation hadn't been easy. Many traditional dragons had left the cooperative, forming their own small empires in distant parts of the galaxy. Some species had been suspicious of the changes, worried that inclusion was just another form of dragon control. But over time, the benefits became impossible to ignore. Planets that embraced inclusive policies saw increases in productivity, innovation, and happiness. Trade flourished between worlds that had once been enemies. Scientific discoveries accelerated as different perspectives combined to solve complex problems. Admiral Vorketh had been one of the most surprising converts. The old dragon had spent a year learning about accessibility and inclusion. Slowly, he began to understand that strength came in many forms. "I was wrong," he admitted to Emperor Zexthul during one of their private conversations. "I thought accepting weakness would make us weak. But helping beings overcome their limitations makes everyone stronger." Vorketh now commanded the cooperative's exploration fleets. His ships were staffed by beings who would never have been accepted in the old Dragon Empire. Together they had discovered new worlds, new species, and new possibilities for cooperation. Lisa often thought about her brother Danny, still living on Earth with their family. He had graduated from engineering school and was designing adaptive technologies for the growing human space program. In his letters, he wrote about how the changes in the galaxy had inspired similar movements on Earth. "Your work isn't just changing the galaxy," he wrote. "It's showing humans new ways to treat each other with dignity and respect." The cooperative had faced challenges along the way. Some species tried to exploit the new openness for personal gain. Others struggled to adapt to societies that valued cooperation over competition. There had been conflicts, misunderstandings, and setbacks. But the fundamental principle held strong. Every being had value, and everyone deserved the chance to contribute their gifts to the larger community. Prince Kethmore often flew through the corridors of the capital station, his mechanical wings carrying him with grace and confidence. Children from dozens of species would gather to watch him pass, and he always stopped to talk with them. "Remember," he would tell them, "you don't have to be like everyone else to be valuable. You just have to be the best version of yourself." Emperor Zexthul had become a different kind of ruler. He still commanded respect throughout the galaxy, but now it was based on wisdom and compassion rather than fear. He spent his time mediating disputes, supporting new inclusion programs, and learning from the diverse beings who made up his realm. "I used to measure my empire's strength by how many worlds we controlled," he told Lisa during one of their regular meetings. "Now I measure it by how many lives we improve." As Lisa looked out at the busy space lanes around the capital station, she marveled at how much had changed. Ships of every design carried beings of every species to destinations throughout the cooperative. The old barriers between strong and weak, normal and different, ruler and ruled, had been replaced by something far more powerful: mutual respect and shared purpose. The story had spread throughout the galaxy, told and retold in countless variations. How a human waitress had carried a disabled dragon prince and changed the course of history. How one act of simple kindness had transformed an empire. But Lisa knew the real truth. The change hadn't come from one moment or one person. It had come from millions of beings choosing to see past differences to the potential that existed in everyone. In the end, humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy wasn't advanced technology or military might. It was the simple belief that every life had value, that every being deserved dignity, and that true strength came from lifting others up rather than holding them down. The Dragon Emperor had learned this lesson from a human waitress. But the lesson itself was universal. Compassion and inclusion weren't signs of weakness. They were the foundation of a civilization worth building, and the galaxy would never be the same.